Let's see if this is working. Hello, everybody. Is this thing on? Yep. It's we are live on the stream with low latency, so the chat should show up. And despite some technical difficulties, including me losing my internet at home, YouTube deciding to cut the stream and having to start a new one, we are here because we want to be with you, whomever is watching. And tonight I have a very special guest. I have with me the GOAT, the ARA, straight from California, November 6th Alpha Radio Alpha. How are you, ARA? And welcome to the show. Thank you for being here with us. Yeah, no, we met at 4 days in 4 days in May. It was right before. I mean, I consider that to be part of Hamvention. It's just part of the whole thing. It was, yeah, it was great seeing you there. I mean, and you were busy selling stuff. You were that little hole was very busy that day. Whoop! Hold on, Ara. Apparently, you have no audio. No one is hearing you. I can hear you here well, but we are not hearing Ara. How do you do this? This page should be doing audio. That's the one thing I didn't test, how to do piping the audio. How does one does this here? Oh boy. Thank you everybody for watching us make mistakes live. That's what amateur radio is all about. Get a license to mess things up. How do I get your audio? Any OBS experts in the chat that can tell me what am I doing wrong that ARA's audio from Video Ninja is not coming through? Yeah, well, that's what you get for doing live demos. Audio, yes, Nick. I know. Because your audio is coming through. How would you try to speak again? Let's see if we can. Does anyone hear ARA? Nope. Nope, ARA can. How about now? Can anybody hear ARA? Nope. Jesus, ARA. I apologize for the unprofessional behavior. That's what you get from amateurs. Yeah. And I love people in the chat trying to read your lips and figure out what you're saying. Yeah, no, the thing is that I was using Restream, but it's actually very limited in what they let you do there. And I wanted to try some new things. And how about now? How about you talk now? So, is Ara coming through now? Any chance? I don't think so. No. Ah, how do you do this? I'm getting everything right here. Let me try something else. Yep, change your source. Ooh, there's an option here. How about now? How about you talk now?
Test, test, test. Hello, hello. One, two, three.
Let's see.
Hello. Hopefully.
How about now?
One, two, one, two, one, two. Hey!
I think yes.
Yes!
Success. Well, sadly, we ran out of time. And thank you, everybody, for being with us today. We'll see you
Roll
again
credits.
next time. Oh, boy.
Too good.
We did it. We did it. Thank you, Ara,
Oh
for
my
your
god.
patience,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
your
of
support, and for all your tests.
yeah.
Um,
I was just telling you while I was muted to the audience, like anytime Mark KD7 GTS and I do any sort of like streaming stuff, like more than half the time is spent just trying to debug what the hell is going on with like OBS, and yeah, it's it's more complicated than it looks.
yeah, let me bring your levels a little bit higher, I think, and
Okay,
we'll be good. Um,
sounds good.
but I think we can start now.
Yeah,
Let's
okay,
pretend this
sounds good.
never happened, and we're all here starting. And hi, everybody in the chat and everybody watching live, and even those of you watching later. I'm Kilo India to Delta, Sebastian, and I'm here with ARA, November 6 Alpha Romeo Alpha, or N6ARA, appropriately, who hails from California. Where in California are you, ARA?
I'm just north of Los Angeles, so like right butted up against the Angeles National Forest,
Okay,
where there's a lot of soda to do.
yeah, nice. Um, I invited ARA because among many things, he's big into soda, and I think that this channel we focus a lot into POTA lately, and I wanted to bring a little bit of a variation, and uh, and also because he's big into doing cool gadgets for radio too. Last time we met and we were talking about that before we fixed the audio problems was in Hamvention, or during Hamvention at 4 days in May, which is kind of like a parallel event that happens just before Hamvention, or during the first couple of days, and focused mostly on QRP operations, which tends to overlap very much with summits on the air, parks on the air too. There's a big overlap between those worlds. So, but Ara, tell me before we move on. I tend to ask this question, and this it's kind of like the typical question in a radio in a an ham stream interview like thing. Is like,
Uh-huh.
how did you got into ham radio?
Oh man, that's a good question. For me, it started when I think I was 15. My neighbor came down and he's a very technical guy and he was like, "Hey, by the way, the do you know what ham radio is?" And I'm like, "No, does it have anything to do with food?" And obviously not. Um, and he's like, "Well, they just dropped the requirement for doing Morse code, and you can learn the test, learn all these questions. You can even memorize them if you want, and you can get a license where you get a call sign like, KLOS and whatever. You started naming off all these local radio stations, but they're like, it's a very unique one that is assigned to individuals. There's other people who do this, and you gave me sort of like the history of it. And I was like, oh, that sounds actually kind of fun. And as I looked into it, it seemed really cool that there were like repeaters around me. And I'm like, okay, this is definitely something I'm interested in because I was like a tinkerer at heart. And I wasn't really into electronics at the time, but it just sounded really neat and cool to do. And so I took the test. I memorized all the questions. I'm a terrible test taker in general. And I got my technician ticket and sort of got involved in the local radio club here, the La Crescenta Valley Ham Radio Club, and then joined like emergency response teams and stuff like that, and helped and volunteered a little bit. But after a little while, I did all the check-ins and things like that, and enjoyed the hobby for maybe 2 years. I would say, I did field day and all that stuff, but it didn't really stick for too long. I went to college and sort of lost interest in it for a little bit. And actually, it wasn't until I started doing building high altitude balloons for in college to send up to near
As
space
one
and take cool
does in
photos,
college, you know.
as one does. It was super cool because it was like sort of the cheapest and easiest way you can get to like space, sort of like
Uh-huh.
outside of normal Earth environments. And it was cool to build something like your own electronics to send up, and you might not even get it back, and you learn a lot about power systems and embedded systems, which is what I uh, in college went into. So I did embedded systems
Hmm.
and control theory. So that type of electronics, not a whole lot of analog. And so around that time, I was looking into like what sort of trackers there are out there. And then I remembered APRS was the thing, and that most people use APRS. So I started designing and building my own little APRS beacons and tracking them and building my own ground stations. So that was like sort of the second life I had with ham radio. And then again, after I graduated college and I wasn't building these payloads anymore, doing other things, I sort of again lost interest in ham radio. And it wasn't until I would say the pandemic when I was very out of shape, just because I was sitting around all the time, not going out like I normally would, that I around that time I had the same interest of like, hey, it'd be kind of cool to socialize, and I know ham radio was a thing. Maybe I should get back into that and get my general. And so like these two things kind of merged into learning about summits on the air, which gets you outdoors.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, and especially in the early days of the pandemic, I kind of was like worried, so I wanted something that I could do alone. And then the intersection of socializing, and thought, oh well, now I can get my general license. So I got into SOTA, I got my general. I hate memorizing things, so I because I didn't know where the band started and ended. And so I was like, well, screw it, I'm just going to upgrade to extra. So I upgraded to extra right after that, and that spiraled out of control, right? Like I got into SOTA, and then that spawned off into a side business, and then did a bunch of summits and made a lot of friends, and here we are live on YouTube. So that's sort of been the the journey of my ham radio adventures in like 2 minutes.
And you recently got your GOTA award. Your goat.
Yes,
Your
my
not your
goat.
GOTA. Your goat. Your GOAT
Yeah,
award. Uh,
we I knew it was coming up. So like for those who don't know, Summits on the Air, if you the the summits themselves uh, have points associated with them, and they vary from 1 point all the way to 10 points, depending on how high altitude the summit is. And if you and you can only get the points for that summit once a year, so it kind of encourages you to go out and do many summits, not just
it's not
one.
like POTA
Racking up.
where you go back to the same park over and over.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I have something to say about POTA, but I'll mention it later. I wanted to originally do POTA, but I'm actually kind of far away from POTA parks where I'm at, and there's not a whole lot. But I'm very close to a bunch of SOTA summits, so that kind of nudged me into that direction. Um, right. So if you do a lot of SOTA and you go activate these mountains, you eventually, if you rack up 1,000 points, you earn mountain goat status, which in fairness, it's sort of arbitrary, but it does mean you've done a lot of hiking and a
Yeah.
lot of activating. And I knew it was coming up soon, so I started like very carefully planning my activation so I could hit exactly 1,000 and and I also wanted to do it on the summit. That was a drive up, mostly because my personal goal was like, it wasn't so much I want to do a really tough mountain for my go activation, but I kind of took a moment to reflect and realized the reason I got here has been because of the chasers, and so I
Hmm.
picked a summit that I could drive up to. So you could, hauled up, hundreds of pounds of gear along with Adam, K6ARK, and Mark 87 DTS,
Yeah, I
and
saw that
Brooks
video, and I
too.
love that it was basically a celebration uh,
Yeah, of the
with
chasers.
you and your friends with 100 watts, so
Yeah.
you can reach all the hunters.
100
The
watts
the
into a buddy hex, so I
yeah,
had a hex beam just blasting melting clouds.
which is
Mind you,
definitely
it's
not your
not.
typical SOTA
No.
activation. And again, to explain to people, SOTA, you have to. Part of the rules is that you cannot operate from your car. You have to walk to the summit on your own power. Not even bicycles allowed, or is it a gasoline engine
You
like motors or
so you technically, it doesn't matter how you get to the summit, you just can't have your radio gear connected to the vehicle or to a
right?
bicycle. So I couldn't put like my antenna on my bike
It
and
has to
set
be
it up or my
standalone.
car. Hmm.
Yeah, and
And
in
what
SOTA, it's the summits are basically the highest elevation in the area. There's some rules about how close can two summits be to each other to be considered a summit, and then
yeah,
you have to activate in the activation zone, which is what is it, 15 meters from the elevation,
25.
25
Yeah.
meters of elevation. So you don't have to be on the summit exactly. You don't need
Yeah,
to be annoying
exactly.
other people who are climbing the summit, but you have to be very close to it for it to count.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you're within 25 vertical meters, right? And there's one other thing I was going to mention, and it's not actually always obvious how big the activation zone
Hmm.
actually is. And this is a problem I ran into very early on. I think like my first year, I went to activate a summit, and I thought I was on the summit because the app I had said I was in the activation zone, but it turned out the summit like went up and back down and back up, and the app itself, the way it was calculating where it is, it didn't actually understand the topology. It just sort of had like a
Mm.
radius that it assumed, and then if you're within the altitude band, it'd say, yeah, you're good. But it turns out that that's not how it works. And so I ended up writing my own web app called activation.zone,
To
that lets
visualize
you,
that.
yeah, that takes in digital elevation maps or models and runs a calculation and creates a contour that you can follow. And it's like a rough estimate. Like if you really want to get a good estimate, you
But
can
it's
use
closer. We need to
Paltopo.
talk. I would love to add something like that to Polo, like where you can see the
Oh,
maps and you can confirm that you're
yeah.
within the activation zone, and that'll be an
Ooh,
interesting
that's a
feature.
good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that would be a fantastic idea.
yeah.
This is
We'll
also
we'll,
what I
we'll talk
love about
about
your
it.
app, by the way. Like, you're always coming up with these great ideas and just
I
adding
have
to
too
it.
many
It's
ideas.
so
That's the main
awesome.
problem I have. I need.
Yeah.
Uh, right now, I've been slowly working on the cat control, which I think is gonna be like
Ooh.
awesome. But
Yeah.
it's more complicated than you'd think, and it's not the cat control part is easy. I already got the app talking to a 705 through the a bridge
Bluetooth.
device we built that
Oh.
that uses Bluetooth low energy and all of that. I haven't tested it with like my 891, but it should work just the same. Is everything else you need to build in the app around letting the user search for Bluetooth devices, select the one they
Yeah.
want, rename it, remove
Yep.
it. Once you select it, okay, which this device, which parameters you want, which radio is on this device, and then you start like all that, all the chrome as they call it around the actual feature is taking me
Hmm.
like hours and hours and hours. But we're getting there. We're getting there, and it's gonna
Yeah.
be awesome.
I learned way more about the Bluetooth stack and Bluetooth low latency in particular when I built the designed and built the Tiny MIDI, which is this like USB-C powered Morse code paddle that you can connect to your phone. It has like a little built-in iambic paddle, and that had to pair with the phone. And what I didn't
It's
realize is like the depth of like Bluetooth, and especially with Apple. Apple makes it so much harder to do Bluetooth
yeah,
anything.
yeah. No, the
I'm sure you know this.
that's what we decided to go with this bridge device, which is basically a Raspberry Pi Zero or any Raspberry Pi, but the Zero, the cheapest one that has Bluetooth, the Zero W works just fine. And we have a little Python server that runs Hamlib to connect to the radio using serial USB. So you plug the USB from the radio to the Raspberry, because most radios don't have actual true Bluetooth support. And the serial works fine, and then
Right.
Hamlib will let me talk to any of the radios without having to get into the minutia of supporting all of them.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great.
And then it provides
Interesting.
Bluetooth Low Energy, which is that one is supported by iOS and Android, because iOS doesn't let you do regular Bluetooth serial connections that easily. In some cases,
Right.
it's harder, and React Native doesn't support it very well either. But BLE works fine, and I got it working. It's beautiful. It's like you can talk to the radio and back, and you select a
Dude, that's
spot,
gonna
and
be
it will
so
change the
awesome.
frequency. Yeah,
Yeah.
the I now I'm thinking about how to, since you have control of a radio from your phone, there's a bunch of features to better control the radio without having to use the like on the 891 to control the notch or the bandwidth.
Yeah.
You have to go deep into
Or
the menus.
or even like when you make a QSO, you don't even have to worry about changing frequency and mode, right? You can just query what the
Oh
current
yeah,
frequency and
yeah.
mode is and put that in the
You get
log.
it from the radio.
That,
That's the very first thing
oh my
is
God,
you get that from the radio. And if
that
you
would be
tap on a
amazing.
spot, you set it on the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Mm. I
that's coming soon.
I'll,
I'm not
I'll
gonna say very soon, but soon.
That's so cool, man. That's so great to see. I
Yeah.
I I I remember switching over to your app maybe like 3, 4 months ago when Mark KD7 DTS and I activated a summit together. And there was this moment where like Mark's like, "Oh, have you tried the Polo app yet?" I'm like, "Oh no, I haven't heard of it. I heard there was in beta or like test flight, but I haven't tried it out since." And he's like, "Oh, check this out!" And like he pulled it up, and it used the location to figure out what the nearby parks are and like auto populate things and let you select. I'm like, whoever designed this clearly is a true designer at heart that understands human interfacing. And there are so few products out there, even not just the ham world, just in general, who think about that stuff. And that's as
It,
soon as I saw that, I was like, sold. All right, I'm like deleting all my other logging apps. Like this is the one I'm using from now on.
there's something that happens. I don't know why in not just in ham radio, in all kinds of apps, where once you completed the checkbox item that says the app has to do this, you think you're done and you move on.
Mm, yeah.
And like I don't know
You're
why,
not.
and I have this thing where I have to go at least 2 or 3 levels deeper than that. Like now that it's
Yeah.
doing it, what is the little thing I can do to make it better? Or now that it's doing
Yes.
it, I'm going out, I use it, and there's something that bothers me that doesn't make it go so smoothly,
Yeah.
and I come back and fix it.
That's
It's
I want to say you subtly mentioned something very important, which is you actually use your own app. Like you're a POTA activator. You know what to look for. Where I think if there's a lot of designers out there who they designed for an audience or for consumers, and they might not even be power users or users of that sort of thing. But like the fact that you actually do this, it lets those gears and turn in your head about like how can I make this better. Otherwise you're just checking boxes and it does
yeah.
the thing, but does it do it well and could it be better? Yeah, exactly what
I
you're
mean,
saying. It's
just I didn't bring you here, Ara, to praise me. I mean, you can keep
no,
doing it
no.
if you want. I'm not going to stop you.
Maybe to say to you, it's like
But
I'm just like a genuine fan of the app, and
let's
I wanted to gush about it. So
let's talk about you and all
okay.
the I don't know how you call them, your gadgets, your
My
create your
gadgets.
the
So
the
I
stuff you build that you actually sell.
yes.
I had it in the description of the stream, but the stream went to hell and I had to rebuild it, so I lost that. I'll put it in the description after we're done. The link to I mean, it's not hard. It's N6ARA.com.
Yep.
So that's like that's easy. I mean, I'm gonna put it in the for those who need.
So sort of a good segue to this. So this whole business of N6ARA.com, it's my online storefront for selling the little gadgets I make. It all started because I was doing SOTA and my paddle broke. I have a KX2 with the little paddle that connects directly into it. And one of the screws came loose, and I couldn't send like the dollar. I don't remember which one it was. And funny enough, I've heard since telling the story that other people have had the same exact issue before. And I almost wasn't able to activate, and kind of had a freak out moment of like, oh no, I lost control of this. Like, I have a system, right? I my radios and my batteries and my antennas are very carefully kitted. When I build a configuration, I normally don't break it, like just so I minimize, the probability of something going wrong and maximize the probability of success activating. And when that paddle broke, it was sort of like this, like, oh crap moment. And I was like, man, it would have been awesome if I had this like tiny little paddle that I just keep with me in case something breaks. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be ergonomic. And so I got home, and I'm a double E and have some skills in doing board design. And so I designed this like super simple, almost hand carved PCB paddle that I called the tiny paddle. And I posted about it on a Slack reflector and Slack channel, and people started messaging me like, hey, where can I buy one of these? And I'm like, oh great, okay, well sure, I'll make you some, and sent those out. And then they shared it with their friends, and that just blew up. And like before I knew it, I had to start a business around just selling the paddles alone. And then there's like the variant of the paddle where it has a jack connector instead of a plug, because originally it was just plugs directly in your radio. But people are like, what if I want to hold it in my hand? I'm like, sure, I'll make that version too. It's a pretty easy revision to the design. And then as I started activating and doing POTA and SOTA activations, I realized there was a need for other things. For example, my MTR3B, I bought an MTR3B. I really love that little radio. But it doesn't have a built-in SWR meter. And Adam, K6ARK, had pointed me to the tiny SWR project that was on GitHub. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, but I want BNC connectors, and it'd be kind of nice to just plug it into my radio and keep it in my kit and make it nice and compact and small. And so like I made my own version of it. People started asking for it, and then that became another product after reaching out to the guy who designed it, and he was okay with me licensing it, which was fantastic. And then common mode chokes, I designed my own common mode choke. More recently, I was talking about a little bit earlier, but the tiny MIDI, which if you're wondering when they're coming back in stock, give me one more month. They sold out immediately after Hamvention. I sold almost all of them. I have like 2 left, and I'm holding them as reserves in case someone breaks theirs. But there's more of them coming. But essentially, it's a CW key that has pads on the side, so the capacitive touch pads on the side, and a 3.5 millimeter jack.
It is a key already.
Yes, yeah, and
I thought it was just an interface for another key, but it has capacitive touch
built in. Yeah.
And, that's brilliant.
It does have a 3.5 millimeter jack, so you could hook up an external iambic key to it. And you can essentially send Morse code either with a practice app, so you could use the capacitive touch paddles to send with that. Got to frame it better. Or hook up your external key and send and practice with that. But I actually didn't even originally create it for practicing. I actually created it because I got access to Mark's Flex radio, and I was using the Flex, and I'm like, this is really cool. Like I could like send QSOs from my phone. But the problem was I couldn't send like CW, like they're all pre-canned messages, or you had to use the keyboard to type CW, which is really awkward in terms of timing. Yeah. And I'm like, it would be so great if I had a paddle that I could just plug into my phone and send with it. And I don't want to deal with cables and all this mumbo jumbo. And so I designed this like I think over a weekend, hit send, made a few of them, gave one to Mark, and he's like, "Dude, you got to sell this thing. This thing is awesome." And that spawned into another product, and of course, much like you and with the Polo app, like I design these things for myself or add features for myself because
Hmm.
I'm also my worst critic. Like I think anytime I see a problem, I got to solve it. That's like the typical engineer's dilemma. Um, and I think that helps essentially breed good products in general.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what it's become now, like 3 years in business and many more products coming. And I've decided to do this smart or stupid thing. I'm not sure quite yet. Of starting a YouTube channel to show the process I go through with designing and building and
I've been
selling products.
I'm anxiously waiting for that antenna, that super magnific handheld
Oh, the
antenna,
go on.
the
Yeah.
Gowant that solves every problem you could have with a handheld antenna in one little.
it's it's kind of funny because so what I don't what I think most people don't see is when you put a product out, typically when you go to production, there has been a lot of testing, there's been a lot of development, there's been a lot of discovery that you just don't see because it's not part of the polished product that you're
Hmm.
supposed to sell because whatever you're selling, it's got to be good, right? Um, and what's interesting is this first series that I've made on a product that I discovered a lot of Japanese folks build and sell in Japan called a Gawant antenna. I was like, huh, it's like this like whip antenna with a dial on it, and like that's it. There's no counterpoise most of the time, and it seemed kind of popular, and I was kind of blown away by that.
Hmm.
And I didn't see any on sale in the U.S. market, so I'm like, oh, I'm going to build my own. Um, and right at that same exact time, I'm like, I'm going to start the YouTube video. Here we go. Like, this is the product to be. This is the first product we'll try out. And a few episodes in now, what's interesting, I'm 2 episodes out of 3. I'm not Sebastian, but
Yeah, no, I need to fix that. There you go.
no,
Ara,
thank you. I probably should.
entrepreneur.
Oh, that's a good word. That's a really good word. I like that. I might
I
steal that.
just made it up. It just
I
made
love it.
sense.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so the Gawant antenna, I built it. I released the first episode, and I'm like, hey, look at all these cool contacts I'm making with it. It's a great antenna. And by the second episode, I realized like, oh, this antenna is actually essentially a dummy load with a whip on it, and it just kind of mostly radiates a little bit. Like, I think the effective radiated power is easily under a watt, if not less, if you're putting in 5 watts into it.
Uh, so it's
Um,
like, yeah, 20%, it's like
yeah,
80% losses.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
but
In fact, in the last episode, I put a thermal camera on it and saw where the energy's going. Right, it was
yeah,
mostly all into the toroid or into the core. So it's a ton of core losses, and it heats up like crazy.
yeah,
Um, but it's been an interesting learning experience. But unfortunately, the very first episode is about what is probably not the most exciting product. Like I'm still 50-50 on if it will actually become a product that I sell, or maybe like a kit if it's not super
yeah.
successful. But I think what's important is to peel back the curtain and sort of show people like,
The
look, you could spend
process.
3 months on the
Yeah.
process. Exactly, it's all about the process. It may be a failure, or it may not
Hmm.
be the most spectacular product, but at least we
And
learned something about it, and
yeah,
I'm still going
what
to
you're
release
learning
it as
from
like an
it,
open
and
thing. Yeah,
yeah, no, and I mean, I asked because I want a nice antenna for pedestrian operation, because there's a few
yeah.
parks in New York City that are really hard to activate with anything but a handheld setup.
It's fun.
And
It's funny you say this because Mark KD7 GTS was saying the same thing. He was like, "Dude, like you should, there are corner cases where this antenna is the only thing you can really use.
yeah,
The other corner case being like shortwave listening. It actually is a really good shortwave listening
huh,
receiver. Um, because it's a very
And
high Q antenna, so it pulls out a lot of that noise, that broadband noise you would pick up otherwise.
can it take how much power can it take input, do you think?
So I've only tested to 5 watts so far. I think the limitation may actually be, I mean, I don't know how close I am to actually saturating the core in there, but you could, you know, make the core a bit bigger, so it can handle
Twenty.
larger fields. Yeah, I think right now I think it's a T20, or no, T50, sorry, T50 inside right now. And it's a dash mix or a dash 6 mix. But I think the limiting factor might actually be the polyvaricon variable capacitor,
Uh,
which is only rated to like, I don't know how many volts, but or kilovolts, but it's probably, I think 5 watts in does equate to maybe 80% of its is rated voltage. Otherwise, you'll get arcing inside, or
mhm.
I actually, yeah, I haven't tested it, but as with any product I also build, I push it to the limits to see where things break.
Yep.
So I will probably do that in the next episode.
You want to see
I've
it melt.
also, yes, exactly. And I've also just last week and this week I've been sending out beta kits. So in my last video, at the end, I had a little email address like email me here if you're interested in beta testing one.
Hmm.
And I actually got a lot of responses to the point where like I'm out of slots. There's enough people now. I can't take on any more beta testers. Otherwise, it's just too costly and too difficult to manage everything. But as part of any product I build, I always have beta testers. Typically, it's been my SOTA friends, but with this YouTube channel, it's been kind of cool because I get all sorts of walks of life, people
Hmm.
who are tinkers and electronics people, to, hey, I'm just interested. I can barely put this kit together, but I do a lot of POTA, or I do a lot of SOTA, or I don't do, I do this or that. And
Yeah.
so there's some diversity in there, which is really good for testing products.
You
Yeah.
know, you want the person who's gonna try to use it with SSB on 20 watts and tell
Yes,
you how it
exactly.
melted.
How it melted, exactly.
Yeah. No, you want to know that before you start selling it to people
Exactly that.
on eBay, on like the random buyers. Yeah. Uh, the what other products you have in mind?
So there's the tiny Gawant. I am designing a new Morse code paddle that is meant to be a higher quality paddle. It's got some surprise features which I want to talk about so badly, but if I do this right, I might be first to market, which would be business wise a bit
Yeah.
advantageous. But and the funny thing is, like, you know I'm not that secretive anyway, but it is kind of a cool thing, and I haven't fully tested it out, so I don't know if it's going to work yet. But if it works, it'd be really cool.
Hmm.
So I have decided to try out a new key design. That's maybe, I would say, 2 to 3 months out from production, realistically. So I was looking to see if I have one here, but I don't yet.
See if it's not
Um,
visible there.
Not yet, not yet. And honestly, what's interesting is I have this list of ideas that is easily 25 products.
Hmm.
It's 25 line items right now, which maybe even 50%, yield would be really fantastic. But I also don't have a whole lot of time, so I have to be very careful with which projects I choose when. Mostly because I have a lot of expensive ideas. Like I've been working on an X-band radio design for SOTA for 2 years now. It's been on and off. It's not that well developed yet, but the test equipment required to even design and build this thing costs so much money that I need to raise enough capital from all my sales to be able to buy the test equipment to be able to design the thing. And so that's been an interesting journey. So a lot of my strategy right now is picking products that will sell well enough that I can then fund the bigger, more ambitious projects.
Yeah, that's the right way to do it. Like snowball it, like to
Exactly.
get something, and also because you learn how to sell things and how to support those sales and to make the manage
Oh
inventory.
yeah.
You don't want to have to learn how to manage inventory with $500 items. You want to learn it with
Yeah.
$20 keys
Yes.
and things like that. That yeah, that's the
Yeah.
right way to do it. What's your day job, if you can talk about it?
Ooh, that is the one thing I can't talk about. Like,
That
I am contractually can't talk about it, unfortunately.
that
I'm
yep,
sorry.
I know that
I would
kind of
love to
thing.
otherwise.
Yep, I understand that. I respect that.
It's okay.
There's plenty of things I cannot talk about. I cannot say bad things about a lot of people. I have nothing bad to say about them. That's all I can say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
No, no, it's great, and there seems to be a very nice community around soda and cool gadget, cool device design in Southern California, I would say, or in California in general. There seems to be more than just you. Um,
Y- Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I didn't realize how lucky I am out here in Southern California when it comes to ham radio, and especially the soda community out here. That's to say, there's many great soda communities out there, but the
mhm.
SoCal soda community is not only fairly large, but it's very active, and people get together and do joint activations all the time because there's so many summits in Southern California that are near each other. That you typically talk to people VHF, so point to point, summit to summit often, or your chaser. So you hear their voices, you talk to them every weekend. Um, and I don't know what it is about the SoCal Soda community with folks like Adam and Mark who do great videos. But folks here like to tinker and just mess around.
Mhm.
And what's even kind of, I don't know by coincidence or what, but there's quite a microwave ham radio community out here too. So the San Bernardino Microwave Society is one of the most active.
I mean, and you got the two things you need for that, which is like some elevation on one
Yep,
side and large numbers of people on the other side that could.
who actually have the radios to pick you up. So if you
Yeah,
want to do 10 gigahertz in SoCal, you can do 10 gig. I mean, 10
yeah.
gig is a very different band. You don't typically go on there and call CQ. Nobody's
Hmm. You
actively
schedule
listening most
it.
of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to pre-coordinate these things. But if you hit the San Bernardino Microwave Society mailing list or the SoCal Soda, well, what the heck? Oh, I guess my Apple thing is on where I
Your
used to
Apple. Yep.
do stuff.
But
Um,
it's cool. You agree with the San Bernardino.
I do. Uh, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Or if you email the SoCal Soda Reflector, people will set up and
Hmm.
do 10 gig. In fact, on Saturday there was a Queens of the Mountain activation where um, many of the women in SoCal who do, I think actually across the United States, who do soda did like a weekend activation where everybody gets to a summit and they do summits together and all that stuff. And they were active. The local summit near me, Mark and gang,
Hmm.
were up there doing 10 gigahertz, and people were making QSOs with them. So it's definitely a hotbed
I think.
for
Yeah.
making contacts out here. And like the weirder and crazier the modes, the better. Like folks are doing like 2 meter CW out here. Like where do you do that?
That's
It's just so
crazy.
cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well.
but I will say, and if you're in a rural area, find friends, encourage them to do weird modes and bands you've never done before. Like I really think the grassroots efforts really do pay off. Because before myself and Mark, 10 gig soda was just not really a thing out here. Like there were people who did 10 gigahertz, but
But not
they
not
were
soda.
contesters. Yeah, yeah. So
Hmm.
like make up stuff. We have the license to have all these bands. You might as well use
Yeah.
them,
No,
right?
that's true. We gotta use them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, well, man, it's been fantastic talking to you, despite the technical problems at the beginning. I don't want to keep you up too late. I
Oh
don't
no,
know if
I'm good. Hey, I'm worried about you. You're in the East Coast, right?
I'm in the East Coast, yeah, but it's still fine. I'll. So lately, I'm an early riser. I used to be like a night owl, but things change when you have kids, and then you kind of like get used to the different
Yeah.
schedule. The most of the work on Polo happens between like 7 and 9 a.m.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
That's my.
Every coder I know is a night owl. Like
I-
they,
If you had asked me 20, 30 years ago, I would have said you were crazy. That if you have told me that those will be my
that's
peak
your.
hours, but it tends to be it happens to be where I have the free time and the energy to do things, and like I'm perfectly fine talking late at night, but not coding anymore. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I can see
I don't know
that.
if people in the chat have questions. Um,
Oh yeah,
they've been talking, they've
that'd be
been
great.
commenting, but
Oh,
I don't see
Mark's
a
in
single
there.
question mark in there. Um,
Do
people
you have
want to
any
go
questions,
on.
Mark? Sorry, terrible joke. Terrible
Um,
joke.
the I yeah, I want to see how to make Polo better for soda because I don't do much
Mm.
soda. It's like the I've limited myself to Poda in part because soda requires a little bit more commitment to go to the main problem I have is that if I go hiking with my wife, she will not let me stop for half an hour to try to get the
Yeah,
QSOs.
I
And
tried
if I
that. It doesn't work.
and if
It
I go
doesn't work.
hiking by myself, she gets mad at me for going hiking by myself. There's like
Right.
Poda gives me the right balance of being able to go and do a quick activation without requiring me that much planning. Uh, but yeah, I want to make it a better like there's that's the thing with Polo is that I need people who use all the other programs to give me feedback and ideas of what to build to make it better. I mean, and someone in the chat asked what do we do about pool cell service. Is that I mean the main thing Polo does from the very beginning is it downloads the entire reference database for any program it supports. So when you install Polo and you say you want to do SOTA, it says okay, give me a couple of minutes and I'll download all the SOTA summits. And every couple of weeks it updates that so that when you're in the field, it doesn't need a connection to know what are the summits near you, or the parks, or the bunkers, or the castles, or anything that's supported in the app. And you'd be
Gotta try
surprised
those. Those sound fun.
that some
Go
of
ahead, Mark.
the programs have a terrible data of their own references. Like there's I don't know if it's castles or bunkers. The list of references is an Excel file, well, a Google Sheets file with a
Oh
tab for
no,
each country, but the tabs for
no.
each country are different. They don't have the same fields. They don't even have the same format for latitude and longitude, um, which is that's beyond the things I can do. It's like the I'm not gonna fix that data for the program, but if as soon as they get it into a single file that I can parse easily, adding its support for in Polo takes me a day.
Yeah.
SOTA has
Oh,
some of
man.
the best data backend applications in the business. Poda does a great
Y-
job too. Um, the it makes a big difference, I think, in participating when you have a great system to report your activations, to see your awards,
Yes.
your progress.
You
It's
know, I tried to do islands on the air once, and I could not figure out for the life of me how to look up what the island I was on is, how to submit my logs. I was like, this is,
yeah,
I like you've made it so hard for anyone to pick this up, and it's like, here, go
hmm
read the rules. It's like 1,000 pages. I'm like, I no, like make
yeah,
this easier. I don't know. Yeah,
and yeah,
soda and
I have my thing with
um,
islands on the air too. That it
what
could
are they
be
thinking?
much better.
It could. It could.
Yeah,
And Soda, I gotta say, Soda not only has great like APIs and all that stuff, but it's and because they've done that, it's actually enabled really great programs or web apps like uh, Sotless, Sotless,
yeah,
SOTL.as. Uh, that is like the most beautiful web app I have ever seen
yeah.
for Summits on the Air, and it's just so well thought through. It's such a smooth interface, and yeah, it just makes life for developers easier, and I'm all about that.
Yeah, SOTA Plus suggests a mode for with a KX2 that you take a photo of the radio, and Polo recognizes the frequency from the photo. I think you might have missed the part at the very beginning where we were talking that we're adding cat control
Oh,
directly.
cat
Like,
control. Have you talked to Brian? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna screw up his call sign, so I'm not gonna say it. Brian with and Justin K5EM about the Sodomate
no, I know about
Soda
the
Cat,
SOTA.
the Soda Cat.
Yes, the
Yeah.
SOTA Cat. I need to talk to them about it. If to see if we can make it compatible. I think that the SOTA Cat is meant to connect directly with like the simplest Bluetooth protocol to do the control. I,
Mhm.
I for now I decided that my first version of cat control would rely on having Hamlib on that bridge device,
Okay.
so that I could
I
add
see.
support for a large number of radios right away.
Hmm.
I would love to replace or to complement that with native support for the most popular radios, but I want to do that without the pressure of like, because if I were to, you know, a few months ago I tried to do direct Bluetooth control of the ICOM 705, and I
Hmm.
spent a week trying to figure it out, and it was a pain, and I just gave up. I almost threw the radio
Yeah.
against the wall, and I've
Yeah.
talked about it
Let
before. It's
someone
like
else who solved the library problem just implement their solution.
I mean,
It's like the
you know about
classic.
networking. You know about networking and layer one, layer two, and all those things,
Yes.
or TCP.
Yes.
So they basically have this Bluetooth protocol in which, or the not the Bluetooth, the Wi-Fi protocol, the network protocol. It uses UDP to
Okay.
pass along their messages, but their messages have sequence. They have sequence. They have checksums. They have a way of requesting the. So they basically implemented their own version of TCP.
They're TCP. Yeah.
That's actually
Oh,
like also like not perfect and not as well documented as TCP is.
it,
Um,
th- this just sounds like that
it
classic case of like, don't ever spend your effort writing a timekeeping module, like time zones and just
right, or your own
time, like
crypto.
let yeah, or your own crypto. Perfect. Like, don't do that. Just rely on things people have built and tested
Yeah,
already. It's
yeah,
not worth the effort. And yeah,
yep.
that's
So yeah,
smart.
after that week, I said, no, you know what? I'm gonna start with if I can. A lot of smart people have built not just one with Hamlib. There's a couple of libraries to manage cat control on multiple radios. Hamlib is the most popular and the most complete, I bet.
Yeah.
But so it's like, why not use that? How can I use that in the simplest possible way so that I don't have to worry about it? And then later, if I can do controls for some radios that have like direct Bluetooth, for example, or I can not require the device, but
Yeah.
that'll come in a couple of years once I've done other things I'd rather do other than implementing serial port protocols based on like the Kenwood emulation and the it's like that'll come later. But first, I want to have the the version of the feature that will solve it for most people with the
Yep.
least amount of
Yep.
work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's Peter. What's his call sign? I always forget. K6PLI. He's in San Francisco. I met him one time. I was in San Francisco for work, and I went to activate a park, and I had asked in the Discord, and he says, "Yeah, sure." Ended up meeting him, and we've been chatting ever since. He built the Python server that we're using, and
Ah.
because I put up the idea in the Ham2K Discord, and he says, "Yeah, let me take a
Uh-huh.
look and see if I can do it," and he pushed that forward, and that's what I'm using now to on the Raspberry side.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Huh.
No, it's been great. I mean, that's the beauty of an open source project too. It's like
Yeah.
that it makes it easy
Oh
for
yeah.
people to contribute and to feel like that their work is going to be there and they have some control over it, and so it's worth doing.
Yeah,
Um,
and they, it's a time multiplier too, right? Like the
yeah,
amount of time I have is very limited, and if I can get other people with, more, an extra slice of time, however much it might
hmm
be, and many of them, and also, diverse ideas, right? Some things I may not have thought of or tested,
yeah,
other people will test. So there's a lot of
totally.
advantages to open source. Many, many.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's I'm a big believer in the
likewise.
open source world.
No.
And I think I mean I would love to be able to commercialize Polo, and I'm trying. I mean I get donations. I think of it as a pay what you want software.
Yeah, I'm surprised because it's like the best app out there, man. Like it,
And it's but I think
people.
I honestly think that I'm probably making more money through donations that I would have had if I had asked for $5
Oh.
to download
Mhm.
the app. I think that it
And
would the it would have been slow for people to catch up. It would have demotivated me too. It's like would have said, no, screw it. Like I only have 100 users. This is not worth it. Um, I think that
I do
that
like
made a
what you
big
did though.
difference.
It is cool. Like especially when your like call sign shows up and if you paid, you get a little like extra blurb. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean,
That's
I want to give
that's
people recognition in the app of people who donate, people who help in some other way.
yeah.
I want to recognize the volunteers that run all of the programs like SOTA and POTA and like the people behind that. And I
That's so
want you to
cool.
be able to recognize them too. It's like if you realize that you're working someone who's a SOTA volunteer, like the app will tell you, it'll show up there, and you'll be able to tell them thank you. You know, it's like, oh,
Yeah. Oh
I appreciate
yeah.
what you're
That's a
doing.
great point. Yeah.
It's the like I think I let me see if I have you in that list because it's like again I want people to be able to
You did.
recognize
Yeah.
yeah you're there
uh, yeah. It's cool. I thought it was a nice incentive. Like I
yeah
think that
creator of the
it
tiny
gets us.
paddle yeah no it's like it because
Be
again
on my gravestone.
if someone uses a tiny paddle and they happen to work you like it's great
Yeah, that'd be
it's a great
cool.
thing.
Oh man.
And I
Yeah.
do because I want to, if when I'm working someone that has done something I recognize, I want to be able to tell them thank you.
Oh yeah.
That's how I
Oh
see it.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh man. Looks like you got some questions in there too.
Chris wants the FX4CR cat control. Chris, I do have an
Ooh.
FX4CR, and that's the one I would probably add support for if I ever have the extra time to work on that. You know, after doing the regular cat control, doing the sync service, doing the Windows version, I'll get back to doing direct native cat control for the FX4CR. It'll probably be the first one I do. I'll say either that or the 705. Um, and
Nice.
Chris asked if we do recognize YouTubers. I think that at this point I have the most complete list of YouTubers in the in ham radio inside of Ham2K. Have let me
Yeah,
see.
it's true. Yeah, because I noticed on my goat day, I got like so many of my friends and and many of them are YouTubers. So, like I remember like Kyle A0Z
Yeah,
and Josh KI6NAZ was in there, and like
I
so many
have almost
folks.
100
Just
YouTubers
YouTubers.
plus like a dozen of podcasters, 2 dozen TikTokers, 2 dozen Instagram accounts.
Oh man,
Like
that's so cool.
yeah, no, it's been fun also to collect all of those. It's like people come and ask like, what do I need to do to get on that list? And I said, ask nicely.
That's
That's
nice.
the. I mean, donating might make it happen faster. No
Yes.
promises. You don't need to, and it might even happen fast without a donation. But that donations are appreciated. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's like all you need to do is show up on the Discord and ask nicely, or send me an email, and I'll put it out right away.
nice.
Um, yeah, no,
I love that.
it's been fun. I'm sure it's the same for you to like start building something that people appreciate when you go to convention and
Yeah,
people.
it, it's overwhelming at times even because like I started the N6ARA electronics business 3 years ago, and I remember the first year was so mind blowing because the orders would come in, they'd go out, and they'd be sent out into the world. And in the beginning, I didn't really know how people were using the products, and I was like, how do people even hear of this? And and then I started to see on social media, without me even being tagged in it, people reposting posts of like my paddle is in the background, or someone's on Mount Fuji with it, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, when did I sell it to Japan? Like, oh yeah, I did. Yeah, there's like those 3 orders I went out there or whatever, and then that was really cool because like especially when you see the pictures, it's like a tangible proof that this
Hmm.
thing that you've brought into the world is out there being used, which is so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. No,
And
that's
I
the
always send it to
best.
my dad who builds these things, so he loves seeing them because it's just like he's the factory. Like I don't have time to build these things on my own, so
Hmm.
he's the guy making these things happen. And then you
Send
go to
send
places like
send him my
Hamvention.
appreciation for that.
Yeah, of course, of course. And then Hamvention happens, and 4 days in May, and suddenly you have people coming up to you and talking
Yeah.
to you and saying nice things about the things you built, and it's just like it's a lot to take in. It's
Yeah.
just like suddenly just being like DDoSed by kindness,
Yes.
which only further fuels your desire to want to do more.
Right. No,
Uh,
that's the thing. It I see it as like loading up on that love, that appreciation. That's
yeah,
the fuel you need to keep
it
going.
really is. It
Yeah.
really is. Yeah.
No, it's great. Well, Ara, with that, I'm gonna try to close this with lots of love and appreciation. I really enjoy. I got a tiny paddle. I even used it to do some CW, but from home. I haven't done CW in a park since I came back from Dayton. But I
Oh, okay.
I tested it here, and it's. I mean, it's the perfect backup paddle. You know
Yes, yes.
that it's
Yeah,
kind of
I
you.
tell people it's not my main paddle in general. Like I genuinely use it as a backup paddle, but for some of my kits, like my MTR3B, it is the main one because it's just so small that you could just
Yeah, yeah,
tuck it into a tiny kit. But throw it in your backpack, throw it in your car.
yeah.
Something goes wrong, at least you have a paddle
And
to
it's
to
and
close
it's
out your
it's
activation and
affordable
break.
enough because it's not cheap in the
Yeah,
sense of it being of cheap quality. It's like it's what thirty
yeah.
dollars.
It's
Um,
$30. Yeah,
it's
I
affordable
I
enough. You
really
can you
should
can
raise my prices, but
yeah,
I don't have the
yeah.
heart to. I just can't. Like every time I'm like 35, I'm like that's a bit too much, and the price of brass has gone up a little bit, so it did eat into my profit margin. I still didn't
Hmm.
raise my prices, but I'm gonna try to hold my prices as low as I can. I don't do sales, so like Black Friday comes around and stuff. I don't normally do sales,
Have you thought about
but
doing like a 3-pack?
oh, I actually thought about combo packs. I've thought about doing
Because
like special edition ones, but I haven't.
that
I haven't thought
yeah.
about packs. That's a good
Because I
idea.
realized that I should have gotten two more. Like they're affordable enough that you can have an extra one that you just keep in the car with you. For you know what I mean? Like keeping your spares. Um, like keep one with each radio just in case.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I think my hope is that the quantity will be high enough that I can still keep this business afloat.
Yeah, yeah,
um, and if you buy one, it does support future projects. Like I will, the more people buy, the more I will be able to build cooler and neater,
yeah.
funky things.
Ara,
So.
Chris is asking if you have a Discord.
Not yet. Ooh, actually, this might be a really good idea to plug. And Mark is probably yelling at me on the other side of this uh, YouTube chat. Mark KD7DTS has a YouTube channel called SOTA Plus, and on SOTA Plus, we just started a live podcast, not a live podcast, it's a podcast where him and I talk about summits on the air and other things. We call it Sofas on the Air because we're not on summits, we're on sofas.
Yep.
It takes place on a sofa. It's in person. We just started a Patreon and a Discord server. It's like literally a few days old, and we haven't even publicized it yet. But our next episode that comes out will give all the details on how to join that. So I would say subscribe to Soda Plus on YouTube and keep an eye out for the next episode where we'll talk about all this coming up soon. And I'll say the cool thing about this podcast is we tried to do it in person, and our goal is to try to, with the Patreon money, raise funds to fly out people that we like to come hang out with us
Oh,
in person and do an in-person podcast. So
Man, you're making me. You're making me. I already subscribed to the channel. I'm gonna go on the Patreon because that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it'd be fun. Honestly, I feel like it's just an excuse so I can meet all these heroes of mine in person.
Yeah.
But we found that the in-person dynamic is kind of fun and different.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I love doing these things. It's just we want to try something out and see what happens. So
No,
yeah,
love
check
that
that
idea.
out. Yeah,
So
thanks.
if you're listening or watching this, go search for SOTA Plus. I'll leave the link in the description, like down below, and do the thing, like subscribe, hit the bell, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, tell us what you like the best about this video, tell us what you want next.
Game the algorithm as much as you can, please.
Feed the algorithm, please. But also do that on the SOTA Plus channel for Era and what Mike, you said?
What's that?
But Mark is with you.
Mark,
Yeah, Mark.
DTS.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
He's in here. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, Ham Radio Duo showed up. Yeah. How are you guys? Well, too bad that we're about to wrap up. Unless they have a question that will have us talking about it for another 20 minutes.
I love their straight key, by the way. They just came out with a new 3D printed straight key that they're selling on I would assume hamradioduo.com or something like that. Sorry, I didn't have this prepared.
So that's a good name. It's very searchable.
Ham Radio Duo. Yeah.
Yes, you'll find them.
Really cool straight key. I love it.
Yeah.
Can't wait to take it out of my next activation.
Do you? How many keys is the right number of keys?
There's never enough. There's never enough. I thought you were gonna ask me how many I have, and it's well over 30. I just collect them at this point, just because they're fun. I love to see how people solve the problems. My current favorite key is oh my gosh, I forget. Aaron, the nameless V0.
Oh, the nameless key. The nameless key is beautiful. I have mine here.
It's
here's
so
mine.
Dang good. Oh,
it's such a nice key. Yep.
Yeah, it's an iambic key. It is fantastic. Yeah.
No, I really love my nameless. It's my favorite key. It's it's the thing is, that Abe is saying it's N+1. It's the same thing as number of bicycles. You always
yes.
However many you have plus one more. You always need one more for whatever reason. Sometimes it's just a duplicate of one you already have. You just need to have two of that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, smash that like Nick says, and use Polo.
I
support.
Polo.
I endorse that message. Ara, thank you very much. I hope to see you in person again soon.
Me.
Yeah.
Likewise. We'll have to add you to the Sofas on the Air guest list.
Oh yeah, I will love that. Would love that. I'll go and do a SOTA activation nearby, just to make it legit.
Sold. Yes, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Excellent.
Thanks so much for having me. This is so much fun.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody else for being here with us, and for dealing with our technical problems at the very beginning. I should leave a message in the description encouraging people to skip the first 10 minutes of the stream, or I should cut it afterwards. I probably can edit it. Yeah, I think it's part of again, we're amateurs here. There's no professionals in this thing. It's we don't know what we're doing. Thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. Hope to see you again soon.
Take care.